So the rate of change is accelerating faster now than it ever has in history, which is why transformation is on the mind of every leader today. According to MIT, one of the building blocks of innovation is inclusivity, which is why Sean and Danny and Josh and all of the leadership in the room was smart enough to include gender equality in terms of what we're covering here. But it's not easy. I like to think of it as a complex mathematical equation. So you have all these different variables that you need to focus on. Variables that include things like leadership, HR and policy, so everything from closing the gender gap to promotions, benefits, hiring practices. Do you have a flexible workplace? There's a lot there. Culture. What kind of culture are you creating in your company? Are there meetings, events, dinners, golf outings that people are being excluded from? And then finally, there's your people and the internal barriers that we have, both on the male side as well as for women as well. And this is why my company, Wet Cement, partnered with Wharton to do some original research where we asked 50 male leaders what did they believe were the biggest barriers to the women in their organizations achieving their potential. And what we found was one overwhelming response. The top of the list was confidence, or a lack of confidence. 4 out of 5 male leaders put this as the #1 challenge for coaching the women in their organizations and stopping them from achieving their potential. So then what we did was another round of research, this one to 300 women globally, to also understand whether there were differences by country, to understand what was it in their minds that was holding them back from achieving their potential. And what we found was actually very similar results. I don't know if you can see this up here, but in addition to fear of missing out being at the top of the list, anybody here relate to that at all, trying to achieve that work-life balance, or that saying that I absolutely hate of, can you have it all? Take that out of the equation. And what you see is all of the elements of confidence and the term impostor syndrome, a piece of that, rising up to the top. So impostor syndrome, #2. Self-promotion, part of impostor syndrome, right on the list. Perfectionism, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about that today. Inability to delegate, all of these things that get related to confidence and imposter syndrome. And so then what we did is we took all of these insights to create an online women's leadership coaching and training program so that we could transform this kind of workshop training experience from something that only a few top-level women get to go to something that is completely affordable and accessible. Think of like what Target did for clothing. And so that's why we're going to spend some time talking about imposter syndrome here today, what it is, what it looks like, what it's doing to your organization, and most importantly, what you can do about it.
When you look at the most innovative, transformative companies in the world, they do not all look exactly the same. There is diversity across the board. But according to Harvard research, diversity is not enough. You have to have the element of inclusion. What that means is that you can't just have different people in the room. You have to be able to create a way that they can connect, and they can collaborate, and they can communicate and feel heard. Because without that, diversity is really just about representing different groups, and you're not going to get the benefits out of it. One example of a company that is really leading the way is an American tech company called Sitter City. The CEO, Elizabeth Horowitz, came in and said, I want to create a diverse workforce. And she did. And then she used data to fuel insights in terms of how was that diversity resulting in impacting their business overall. And what they found was surprising. Just because they put a diverse organization in place, it did nothing. And in fact, in their case, what they found was that women did not feel heard at all. And so what they did was they created a design thinking workshop to understand how do they change their processes so that they could create a culture of collaboration. And then jointly, they created a diversity statement that talked about what do they stand for and how would they function as a team so that they could be inclusive. And again, everyone, regardless of age, gender, sexual orientation, or the way they think, would be heard. And so here is an example of just one piece of what that diversity statement says that I think is so important. We encourage open debate and embrace the discomfort that may follow, because differences push our thinking forward.
Now, if you're leading a team, it is critical to help people on your team recognize that mistakes and imperfections are not only okay, but they should be celebrated. So think about it. As a leader, do you ever start a meeting talking about what mistakes people made over the course of the week? And use that as an opportunity for everyone to share and not be fearful of being found out that they made a mistake. But it's actually expected. Because once you can share your mistakes, you can learn from your mistakes. And then what you can do is you can help people start to see that imperfections are a beautiful thing. And it's part of the process. And it makes you better. A really important thing to understand about perfectionists with impostor syndrome is that they delay getting started. They avoid taking the leap. This can be really negative for your organization for so many reasons, because it means that important projects don't get started because they feel like they don't have everything they need to make it perfect, so they delay. So the number I want you to remember is 80%. Let those perfectionists on your team know that they should get started on anything, a project, a new effort, a partnership, when it's 80% of the way there. So they never have in their mind that it has to be perfect, and then they, again, can make up that gap as they go.
The caterpillar can transform into a butterfly. And each of you can transform into an innovative, transformative leader. That's why you're here, right? You came here so that you can create breakthrough innovations. And so I want you to go on a little journey with me. If you can close your eyes, and think about if you could fast forward 5 years and your life was exceeding your dreams, what would you be doing? Who would you be surrounded by? People that you respect and trust and admire, doing work that you are so proud of. How would you feel? You can open your eyes. Would you feel a little bit scared? Would it feel risky to do something entirely different? I would assume there's no one in here who would be doing exactly what they do today. We can't be, because the world has changed. The speed of change is getting faster and faster. And the days of incremental growth, 2% growth, get a promotion? Not anymore. We need exponential change, not incremental change.